What's up, guys? Welcome into Manhattan Beach Studios. I'm Victoria Dennis alongside Meg Burgdorf. Joining us is the team that punched their ticket to the AVP 2025 League, Hagen Smith, Logan Weber. Welcome to Grit.
Guys, thank you so much for having us. It's it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you guys, and excited to chat about the league and just kind of all of the volley adventures.
Yeah, getting gritty with it. Okay, we're gonna dive in first off about even qualifying for the league because it's super gnarly. Then we'll talk about the league itself and then some World Tour King of the Court stuff. But first off, let's talk about the qualifier. Gnarly, one day.
Yeah.
How was it?
I think we prepped pretty good going into it, and we kind of had an understanding. You know, it was new for everybody, so that aspect of it, we thought that we could, use it to our advantage and pounce on people. And no, I mean, we went out of the gate in all of our games and were very consistent and applied the pressure, and it felt really good for us. It was some of the best ball we've played in a long time, and we made a big switch a couple weeks before. Logan's now on the right, even though he's sitting on the left. I don't like him right now.
He did go to the right in fact.
He did have that set up to match your beautiful photo in the background. But because Logan and I are holding down the fort in the height department, that wasn't a good one. Yeah, room.
I know, right? That's okay. We're the bookends.
Yeah, it's okay. But we made that switch, and so far it's been pretty good for us. And we tried to be secretive about that going into our first practice against Timmy and Ryan, and I don't think we tricked them, but it worked so far. So
yeah.
So finding rhythm, switching sides this time as a partnership really worked. Talk to us about the points and managing playing in a different points construct.
Yeah, it's obviously we practiced a lot of practice sets to 15 before it. I don't think at any point in AVP have as many players just let's do a practice set to 15. So everybody's fully ditched sets to 21 in practice at this point, just to kind of get adjusted. I think the biggest thing, and one thing that we were able to do well through that, is we had a pretty good game plan strategy going into every individual match. But I also think we were able to really quickly, within one or two side switches, we were able to kind of adapt that strategy even quicker than you would in a set to 21, right? So we were able to kind of pick up on things that the other team was doing. And if our strategy going into it didn't work on the first side switch or two, we were able to kind of quickly make that adjustment, which was super huge in sets to 15, obviously.
Yeah, because you don't have the middle of the match really after a technical timeout to make the change and kind of bait your match.
Exactly, and we used that to our advantage. We knew, sometimes you get in that spot where it's let's try it a little bit longer, and maybe it'll start working towards the end after people kind of tire out or it just gets monotonous for another team. You don't have that option. Your back's against the wall. You need to score points right now. So far, so good.
Yeah. What's the biggest change shifting from 21 to 15? Would it be serve and pass? Is it more crisp, disciplined defense, trying to earn in transition? What's one tool in your tool belt that you're really leaning on?
I think, for us and for anybody who watched our matches a couple weeks ago, Hagen serving was just absolutely unreal. And in a set to 15, in a set to 15, I think we had a lot of 4-1 side switches at the start, which again doesn't seem like a big deal to, in a set to 21, it's 4-1, you get another, you still have so many points to still earn that back. But if we can get up 4-1, and then that allows him to feel even more relaxed on his serve because we know we already have that little bit of buffer room, right? Then he can go back and just apply so much service pressure. And I think that was one of the big things that was just massive throughout the day. And within that, you always absolutely crush serves, but I thought in general as a team, we did a good job of managing if we weren't going 100% with the serve, we either were applying a ton of pressure or we were just hitting balls in the court. And at least for me, when we were siding out, if a team was missing a lot of serves, and again, in a set to 15, not only obviously we're getting points off the missed serves, but you're not able to gather any sort of data if you miss a serve. So even on the balls that you weren't absolutely like 100-mile-an-hour fastballs on, we were still able to get like defensive data based off of what the other team was doing, which I thought was huge.
Really a huge perspective, because on the men's game, we're starting to see trickling over from indoor a lot of service errors on the international stage. So in a game to 15 points, you are saying we really don't have that luxury to have as many risk error moments.
Yeah, and it's also just such a pressure situation for a lot of teams. And I honestly didn't feel a ton of pressure in most of those games.
No, I think we did a great job with our training blocks, putting our focus in, if we have, let's say, for this preseason, we had a couple months, like we knew that our goal was going to be this April, and that by April and by the AVP Huntington event, that's when we wanted to peak. So we knew we wanted to get better through this event, not to say that we didn't have like the goal to go qualify. Good job, by the way. Nice. But we had a good plan of action going into it, and we trusted what we've been working on. And this preseason, for sure, for us, we've battled through some just our systems, how we wanted to game plan, and like I said, making a huge switch to even though it seems simple, but going from left to right can be difficult for other guys, not for Logan. No, I think our mindset going into this was very beneficial. And then we just were probably our most consistent we've been. We didn't bleed too many points, and we kept that pressure on teams, and like that the game being so much smaller, so much shorter, that it eats at you.
Yeah, and applying that pressure throughout the duration of the qualifier. What's a couple points or a team that you played where you're like, wow, that was insane volleyball? I mean, from my perspective, everybody playing in that bracket trying to qualify, like these are some gnarly teams.
It's only 16
going in.
Yeah.
Right. It's tough. And like you had to battle like every point, play as hard as you can to try and qualify, which you did. But from the qualification, what's like one moment that stands out to you two separately or as a team where you're like, okay, yeah, we got this?
I think the finals, kind of going into that match, at least in my head, it was like, all right, we made the finals regardless of what happens now. Like we're in a good spot. Like we're set up pretty well, even if we, don't punch the ticket right here. Like we'll be able to punch it at some point, kind of like going forward. So to me, like when we had like one key stop at the end of that first set, because I don't think we really played our best volleyball, I would say, in the first set of the finals.
No, I don't think we played our best, but we didn't dip, which was important, and we stayed the course, hung in there. Pretty sure you got a pretty big block.
Yep, that's what I was referring to.
Yes, of course. Just missed a dig for that next point to put us over the edge, but yeah, we were resilient through it all. I think that was huge for us. And then we were able to kick it into that next gear in the second game and gave them the business a little bit.
Yeah. But I think just kind of not stealing the first set, but battling through and then being able to come out on top in, what really could have been a set that went either way, which was so many times in that tournament. Even watching the second qualifier this past weekend, it was like, this is just almost a flip of a coin who's going to win a lot of these games.
Absolutely.
And luckily we played steady enough that we didn't have any 3-set matches the whole weekend, which was very nice.
Huge. I mean,
very conservative.
Yeah.
You could then play 4 a day maybe and not be as
efficient. Efficiency is key.
No, I mean, yeah, we definitely saved some energy for us.
Yeah,
going into it.
I think watching Sean and Brian play Cayman and James after we had finished our semifinal, and that was an absolutely gnarly game. And all 4 of those guys just looked like they were firing on all cylinders. And I think for us to be able to win ours quickly in 2 and just kind of sit back and watch that, I think I was even talking to Sean that night about it, and he was like, we had put so much like physical and mental and emotional energy into trying to win that match that by the time we got to the finals, and then especially once we won that first set, it was like, all right, like now this is our time to go and take this.
Yeah, because you guys really have to sprint out of the gates. There's no like first side switch to like warm up, settle. So you have to do a really good job warming up and being ready to go. What goes into the decision making though when it comes time to maybe make a timeout that changes from the 21-point matchup to the 15-point?
Do we take any timeouts?
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
None.
No
Just
time to
spin.
take a timeout. You have to get to 15.
Yeah,
I think we took maybe like 1 or 2 throughout the day. I could be
Yeah.
totally wrong. It's, we're still kind of
blur.
feeling
yeah.
awesome from it. I've liked what I've noticed on the international scene is at any point 2 reels from your opponent, you take a timeout no matter where in the game. We don't do that often, but I think about that quite a bit, and that was ready to enact that if necessary. Because there's why, like Logan was saying, if we're up 4-1, that's a huge mental pressure for another team. Why not stop that momentum right now if you can, right? So one thing I still struggle with is thinking about calling that timeout, not just calling it right away. Like if it's in my head, it's probably a good time to do it, and use it if you got it. They're there for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially like the 2 real points thing. Like if a team earns 2 in transition, it's like, okay, let's stop that like bleeding a little bit. And it is such a short game. Like it's okay, in my opinion, to call that timeout at 4-1. Like even on the indoor side, when I'm coaching my 17s team and like something's happening before somebody gets to 10, I'm like, no. Like let's resettle, like settle down, come back out. Maybe X's and O's are a little bit different. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
The photos taken by Lisa Diedrich are art. Okay, everybody knows that in the volleyball community. The photos she took of you two at the game point, post, punching your ticket, just you can see that emotion, the mental, physical emotion, just the relief. Kind of walk us through like when the dust settled. How was that?
Yeah, I think kind of the part that keeps going.
A little bit of that, right?
Is what happened.
I mean, a massive relief. I mean, this is Hagen and I's start of our 3rd season playing together, which I think, other than the 2 Olympic teams, is the longest running partnership on the men's side right now. And like just within that, there's so many ups and downs as you go, and just I've kind of learned over the last couple of years to really just stay in that moment when something goes really well, like it did, because they're sometimes few and far between when you get those moments where it's like, oh my gosh, this came together and we did really well when we needed to do really well. I think the part that kind of sticks in my head a little bit was how stoked your dad was afterwards. Because when Sinjin seems like emotionally moved by the fact that we won, I'm like, that must have been a big deal, because this guy's seen more volleyball than just about anybody, and just to see him, so stoked afterwards, that was big for me to just be like, man, this was a big deal.
That was big for me too. I was telling Logan, going back and watching the clips, that you can hear my dad interject, scream and cheer throughout, and he's been on our bench a bunch of times already. And I was telling you, I don't remember another time where he was that vocal throughout it. And yeah, like you said, he knows the gravity of what our beach scene looks like right now and how important getting to the league is. So no, it was awesome. I think our focus, he was trying to channel good energy for us, and we were on another level with our focus. And yeah, it was awesome to have him there and really push us.
And for those who don't know, your dad is Sinjin Smith, who is a living legend of the game. And
he's all right.
He's all right,
He did pretty good
says
for
Hagen. What was that like growing up and watching your dad play, and how did that inspire you to play?
My favorite parts of him playing was probably a little selfish by me, but I didn't care if he won, if he lost, whatever. I just wanted to get on the court and touch the ball with him. So just being in that experience, like getting onto the court and kind of having some of those little eyeballs on me from everyone and getting to play was awesome. And just, I was talking to Avery about this with his, because he's been traveling around with his kids, and like all the little weird things or what I remember the most, never about like if my dad won or lost or whatever it was. So it was cool to understand what his kids are going through and see them also going through it. I was chatting them up in one of the players' tents. I think it was Chicago, and just like, oh, like, what's your favorite part about this? He's like, oh yeah, we get to swim today. And I remember it may have been my dad's last event, but there was a Chicago event, and the thing I remember the most was just the indoor pool at the hotel. Right, it was a huge moment for my dad. But I just remember after him playing, we got to go hang out in the pool. So it's like the little things that you just, maybe you take for granted. But
It's perspective.
Exactly.
Right? It really gives you perspective at the end of the day. Like, how fortunate are we to be a part of a game and play a game for a living? But at the end of the day, like, what's really important, right? And it's family comes first. And with your family growing up on the sand, Logan, you're from Michigan, a little bit different. We'll get to that in a second. But what about growing up and watching your dad and all the OGs out there play, and everyone that has a name on the Manhattan Beach Pier, right? From that era. How did that inspire you to pick up a volleyball?
Heavily to my dad's attempts at putting me into tennis. I remember when I was younger. He was like, I was on a little good path with a couple of my tennis buddies, and some of them are still playing at a high level right now. And he's like, you want to play tennis? There's a little bit more money there.
There's money in tennis.
Go there. And I was like, no, I just want to be like you, right? So I use that part of my life as not like living in either his shadow or of that time's shadow, but I use it as a resource because I can go and pick all these guys' brains. Something I still want to do is do a couple like training sessions with, like, go get Kent to bring us out, go get Hav just to yell at us the entire time. Dog's brain, right? And just bop through. I had Randy. Randy was a big part of when I was playing with Robbie Page. He came out and coached us quite a bit. And it was cool to have that different dynamic of, we had my dad and the AVP qualifier for Manhattan in 21. We had Randy and my dad in my box, and then Dodd was in Sean Cook and David Lee's box. So it was awesome, right? You just have legends of the game.
That's a full circle moment, not to cut you off, because those athletes battle each other at the MBO like throughout the 80s, like an entire decade, 2 decades. They were going at it in between the lines, and now they're going at it from the box. So that's a full circle.
No, it's awesome. And I get to use my dad as such a resource in volleyball strategy and being an athlete, just traveling the world. Like, he's done it more than anybody else. And so it's really cool to have that as a something in my back pocket that I can reach out to.
What's the advantage of having a coach in your box with you? Because when you go internationally, you don't really have that.
Well, I'll give everybody my dad's biggest tip. Serve short. That's always something that he comes back to us, like, just throw them out of rhythm. But it is nice to be able to rely on a coach sometimes, if you're really on that strategy, really putting your best foot forward to, go after one specific thing. And then if it's not quite working, or if the coach is, instead of us trying to absorb all that data that is happening on that side of the net, having the coach there to help us out. We've used that a couple times.
Yeah, I think probably my best, or maybe one of the most impactful coach in the box moments was probably Mark a few years ago. Mark Burek coached us in Manhattan Beach a couple years ago. And it was interesting with him because it was maybe his first year not playing. And that he was coaching us. And it was just interesting to hear how somebody who had just a year ago been like in our shoes playing against the same teams. And so he was able to kind of talk us through a lot of the strategy of playing different teams from such like a perspective where it was like, I was literally just playing these guys and now I'm coaching against them. And he also just brought like a lot of really fun energy to it. And just kind of having that person to, that outside perspective to be like, you guys are way too, either like uptight and like frustrated right now, like relax. Or to just
You're practicing that a lot today.
Oh yeah. Some good size. Good
Breathing's underrated, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big focus of me in this qualifier, getting back to my breath.
Yeah.
So it can make a big difference, and it definitely depends, who you have. Like, a lot of coaches just have so many different, they bring different things to the like in-game coaching bit. But yeah, Mark, I think Mark in that one was awesome. Definitely having your dad there is really nice. He's usually a man of pretty few words when we're playing. Like serve short or serve in is about that's like the extent of it.
Put the balloon where they're not.
Yes,
like, it's easy. Yeah,
he just understands the game so well, and sometimes I think it's just like, why aren't you just doing what I would do? So we have that aspect of when he gets what he wants to tell us out, it just makes total sense. And then we've been working with Brandon Joyner this year, and we haven't had him in our box yet, right? But we will eventually, right? And I think he's been a great asset to us as well. And do you feel better at beach so far?
So much better at beach.
Yeah.
I am better at beach.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you are the beach cowboy.
I am the beach cowboy.
So let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, I started it kind of a few years ago when Evan, Corey, and I were playing together, and we were working with kind of like an agent marketing guy, and he was like, "You guys need to come up with something that's going to make you stand out a little bit." And so I thought about it for a few days, and there's this country song that's not very popular, but it's literally called Beach Cowboy. And it was like one of my favorite songs at the time. And I love country music.
I know the song. I love country music.
Yep. And so that song had just come out. I loved that song. And I was like, this is really cool. And it also just kind of fits in with the beach cowboy kind of branding that a lot of, companies are going with, and the just Florida kind of vibes and all that kind of stuff. And I also just kind of like the idea of not being from California and just kind of a little bit of an outsider chip on my shoulder kind of thing. So I was like, well, this would be pretty easy to do because all I have to do is walk around every tournament wearing a cowboy hat, and people are like, oh, beach cowboy. So it was pretty funny because within a few months of us kind of starting to do that, we went to a tournament in Doha, and we were practicing against one of the Brazilian guys, and their coach walked up to us and they're like, you're the beach cowboy. And I'm like, how did you know that? I've barely even done that much. But the only struggle is I found cowboy hats really hard to travel with.
Yeah.
They are.
Just because they're so, I can't.
Carry on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fit in airplanes anyways. So me trying to wear a cowboy hat in a plane, I mean, it's iconic. People are like, why is that 7-foot tall man wearing a cowboy hat? But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and just brings a little bit of personality, hopefully, to what I do. And yeah, I've recently started playing guitar as well. So leaning into the brand as much as I possibly can. Yeah.
We love that, serenading the.
Yep.
I love it.
But now I'll have to start bringing my guitar, I guess, to tournaments.
Yeah, that's part of the.
Yeah. All right, I'm in.
That's the dynamic warm up. That's how you qualified.
Yeah.
Logan serenaded you before your games with his guitar and his cowboy hat.
Our secret.
I was about to say you.
I love that chip on your shoulder, being from Middle America, growing up in Michigan. I have family in Marquette, Michigan. That's my only plug. How is that vibe, bringing it to the coastal region, SoCal?
Yeah, it's just cool being from somewhere where especially boys volleyball is not prevalent at all, or at least it wasn't when I was living there. It's really cool now because Michigan high school boys volleyball has 80 or 85 schools, and I think it's a MHSAA recognized sport now. And when I was in high school, there was not a single high school that had it. So it's been cool in the last few years just to kind of realize, not that I had any part in that, but to realize that a lot of those boys know who I am from me playing, and know that I'm one of the few people from that area that was able to come out here and at least make it work thus far. So it's been cool to kind of lean into that community a little bit more. I've been trying to get back and do a little bit more with that. But yeah, it's just not a lot of people from that area obviously come out and do this. And I went to college at Cincinnati Christian University, which again, Cincinnati has a really cool beach volleyball scene down there with Grand Sands is an amazing facility. So I feel I kind of have these two home bases now, where I have a lot of people that have just always wanted to see me succeed in this, and just getting the Instagram messages. And one of the first people I called after we qualified was my buddy Chris Lewers, who I grew up. He was kind of my coach in Cincinnati, and so just trying to stay the the people that I kind of grew up playing with have been so instrumental in me being able to do this. A lot of my sponsors are just guys from back in Michigan that have just always wanted to kind of see me succeed, and it's just such a rare thing to kind of come from that area. Stafford Slick was one of my biggest like idols growing up because he's a Minnesota guy who kind of played like indoor club ball in college, like didn't play super high level indoor, and then made the move out here, played AVP for a long time. So he was always my like kind of my North Star for the fact that like it was possible to do this coming from the Midwest.
You haven't decided which city you're playing with during the league, but do you two have a dream city that you would want to represent during AVP League?
For me, it's always been, I would love to get on a team with a women's team that I'm really good friends with, because I just think it would be, I mean, just awesome. So I guess for me, like the Austin Aces would fit the beach cowboy vibe really well, and then being able to be on a team with Taryn and Kristen, since I believe that they're locked in to stay with them, would be pretty sweet. I don't know. Have you thought about? We haven't really chatted about that at all. But.
No, we're ready to go out there and represent whoever. Yeah. But I like Austin Aces. It sounds, it fit you.
Yeah, it fits me with the Austin part, and it fits him with the Aces part. So
yeah, there you go.
You're welcome, AVP. We did the thing.
Bada boom.
We take 10%. That's so fun. That would be perfect. There's also a playlist called Coastal Cowgirl on Spotify that I love, that the Austin Aces, you can take that to Taryn and Kristen if that comes to fruition. Then the girls can have that playlist, and then you guys can like have your playlist and be a unit.
Yep, I can show off all my cowboy boots.
Your line dancing skill.
How many boots do you have?
Yeah, I have a lot of boots.
How many pairs?
Right, 9 or 10.
9?
Whoa!
I have a boot hookup guy, so
he hasn't got me one pair.
At the boot barn.
Yeah. So
well, maybe
we'll see.
Maybe you can have a pair now.
Yeah. If we're the Austin Aces, I'll get you some boots.
So there's a few teams left to qualify on the men's side.
Mm-hmm.
Who are your guys' pick?
It's tough. I mean, going into the AVP Huntington, we're single limb. Sean and Brian are sitting pretty. It's just anyone's game, having to go back-to-back days of just grinding it out, where this is arguably the most pressure we've had in an AVP season really ever, where like you put all your cards on the table, and if you don't qualify, you get put into this other bucket where these other teams don't want that. Sean and Brian are playing pretty good ball right now. I'd like to see them continue. You can't count out Troy and Theo. If Try and Evan are if Try's feeling good, they can come back and do some damage. But it's just, we'll see what happens when everyone else comes into play into the AVP Huntington.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more pressure even at this next AVP Huntington than there has been in these two qualifiers, because at least in these two qualifiers, it's, like if we make it, great, but there's always, there's always kind of another chance, right? Like you don't want to have to use that other chance, but at least, when it really comes down to it, everybody kind of felt like we can have one bad tournament and still get in, right? And now there's no more tournaments after that. So it's, I would love to see Sean and Brian get in. Obviously, getting 2 seconds, like, and being that close would be, that'd be real tough if they didn't get in. And I think the league fans, I'm sure, want Sean in, and Sean just brings so much energy and entertainment to the sport. So much character, yeah. And I just think, I've been friends with Sean for a long time, and he's been, grinding AVP stuff. For a decent amount of time now. And the tough thing for Sean is, like, if he doesn't make it in, he doesn't have that avenue of playing a lot of international events like we do. So from a fan perspective and just, somebody I think I would love to see get in, it would probably be Sean and Brian at the top.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. The role or the career of a professional beach volleyball athlete has really changed. And so if you're not qualifying for the league, And like in a case like Sean, not being able to fully go international, originally from Scotland, not having a bigger national domestic offering. I mean, it's a pretty bleak transition as the AVP goes from its former Heritage Series and multiple tour stops. Yes, they have the AVP next, but it's not the same anymore.
Mm-mm. I think like ultimately the AVP is still the best domestic tour anywhere in the world. And so I think obviously there's always things we can improve about the AVP. But if there was, if there were people in Germany making $1 million a year, I'd be like, all right, something is wrong with this. Right. But ultimately, we're fortunate that we get to play on the AVP because there's nowhere else in the world. I'm not as familiar with Brazil. I've always been told Brazil is kind of like the second best domestic tour, but there's not a lot of countries in the world where you can make somewhat of a living just playing domestically. So I think like last year we put a lot of our eggs into the international basket and we kind of prioritized that. Yeah.
Everywhere overseas.
Yeah. And we traveled around constantly last year. And
highlights from last year.
What was your favorite moment from last year?
On paper, we went from LA to Rio to London to China. Then I went down to Indo. And then back to LA. So I got to fly around the world in a trip, which is really cool. And we may do that coming up. We have our second challenger event in China. Then hopefully we're getting over to Hamburg for King of the Court. And then we'd go to Houston.
Yep. And
then we go back to LA. So we went one way at the end of last year, and now we'd go the other way this year. But we had a lot of fun last year. We did a 5-week Europe trip. That was awesome. We started in Italy. We won a futures there. We went to Hamburg for the King of the Court. We grinded it out and just barely missed qualifying for that one. We took third in Bulgaria. Then Logan left me. And then I went up to Norway for King of the Court. That was awesome too. So we've seen a lot of the world and have got to play in really cool places and see great things. So,
and that's what's so special about the sport too. Like, I've been able to travel, and we all have, because of the sport of beach volleyball. And you meet so many amazing people in the community, no matter what continent you're on or what country you're in. Like, it's just such a different crew. Like, it's just a very fun, welcoming, everybody's trying to have a good time, but super high level athletes, insane athletes. It's really fun to be a part of. And you guys, next up is the Hamburg King of the Court.
Yeah, I was just saying one of my favorite moments is this. And that was a King of the Court we played in London. Really last second we ended up going to it.
Yeah.
And I'd never left the airport in London, so I'd traveled through London all the time but never actually left. And it was just such a cool event. You talk about the community. I think the King of the Court events, especially because everybody's not quite as high strung, I would say, as people are at normal international events. So you get even more of that, that they strike such a good balance between, it's not a full on exhibition event because there is prize money. So people still really want to win, but also it's just a little bit more relaxed and I guess entertainment oriented than a normal World Tour tournament is. So winning that one in London, I would say is pretty high up there.
Oh, it was awesome. The venue was amazing. They put us in a bouncy house-esque border. And I really wanted to go dive and jump off it, but I was really scared that it would pop. But it was Canary Wharf, right?
Yeah.
So we were in the financial district in Canary Wharf and just skyscrapers everywhere. And then just plopped us in the middle. And it was so cool. The Volleyball England was very awesome hosts. And technically, we are still the kings of England.
We are.
Watch out, Prince William.
Yeah, right. We didn't get to go take our house, but maybe next time we go over there.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the format, because it is very different on King of the Court. What's it like? I know you said the vibe is a little bit different, but in terms of playing, what are some of the strategies or skills that you really need to hone in on?
Well, it's interesting because I don't know where I saw this comment, but after we won a couple weeks ago, I saw a comment somewhere that was Well, it sets to 15, like Logan and Hagen have played a lot of King of the Court where you don't get a lot of like warm up time. You just kind of have to you got to be able to go right off the bat when you play King of the Court. And I was like, I hadn't thought about that, but that's an interesting comparison there because
that makes a lot of sense actually. Yeah, you just, as you know, let's say you start the round of King of the Court, you have 5 teams. Once you're up and back to serve, you need to execute, or else then just more time comes off. You go back to the line, and then you need to execute again. Blah, 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 blah. For me, my serving is just a huge asset in that, because the upside of getting that ace is huge, and then there's no real penalty for missing. So I go back there and crank it as hard as I can.
It's great. I go the entire weekend and I don't serve a single ball. Like I've done every skill, but I haven't served in a week.
And the game can be so taxing. Just it could be a huge cardio for me, because I run from the king side back to the serving line, and then Logan just walks up to the net and just stands there, and I hammer a serve and I barely miss, and he's like, "Oh, Hagen missed again." I go back and I hammer another one. And he's just like, "Oh, it's actually kind of easy just standing there."
Finally, a blocker gets
I was
not running
AI stats on that.
But yeah, right. But it's such a fun. It's still so competitive, right? Everyone wants to go out there and kick butt, right? But it is like the camaraderie of it. You have that ability in between points to talk. We don't strategize with anybody else, never. But some people do, maybe sometimes. But it's fun to be in that competitive moment and have like a little bit of the back and forth with teams that you don't really get in your normal beach volleyball.
What's one thing outside of volleyball that you want the fans to know about you? Like something about like off the court, like do you like to cook? Do you read, like write music?
I'll go a slightly different direction with that. So a quick story, because I don't think a lot of people know this about me, but I've had a bunch of like health issues regarding my eyes. So I've actually detached my retina 3 times. So like 2012, 2015, and 2018. So it was like every 3 years, it just kept happening. And it's like this weird genetic thing. But it was interesting going back to Stafford.
I was going to say.
Because that's actually the same injury that he had. He obviously got hit while he was blocking. Mine was just a genetic thing. It wasn't from any sort of trauma. But it was interesting how something like that, it was like a 6 to 8 week recovery after like post-op type thing. So it wasn't by any means, I mean, I see some people that get injured and, an ACL or something like that, and you're out for a year, and I'm like, that would be awful. But even within those like 6 to 8 weeks, it puts such good like perspective on the game. And every time I was able to then come back from that, I just had so much gratitude that I was able to play again. And especially just anytime you're messing with your vision, it's like, this is bigger than volleyball. Like could be, a big issue. So I think coming back each time from those, it was just like, I had so much gratitude for the game. And I also just learned way more about my eyes than I ever thought I would know about my eyes. But that's kind of my, luckily I've been extremely healthy outside of that. But that was kind of a big point, those three times in my life where it was like, this game can get taken away so easily. And I think that's given me a lot of like gratitude and perspective on playing in general.
Thanks for sharing.
I don't know how to follow that one up.
I was like, silence.
I like dogs.
I like dogs.
I like surf.
Hair care routine?
Yeah. No,
Oh yeah, what conditioner do you use?
Secrets.
It's a secret.
Secrets. But I'm open to every and any hair care product sponsor. So reach out, and then I'll tell you your secrets, and everyone else can look like me. But no, I'm just big outdoorsy guy. If I can go up in any form of going up, like just into the mountains.
Favorite national park?
I love just Kings Canyon, which is like Sequoia in the Sierras. I have a little secret spot up there. I've been going with a group of buddies forever that has a special place in my heart, and we just pop in for backpack in, have a little base camp, and then just do day trips all throughout there. And it's awesome. And you never see a single person. And it's really awesome to just get away. But yeah, anything where I can go into the mountains. You know, I've been blessed to be on the beach, and I love surfing. I love the ocean and water. I've been blessed to have that for my whole life. And so now I'm kind of transitioning into, or not necessarily transitioning, but adding both together.
I love that.
So.
I grew up camping up in the high Sierra Nevada mountains, up above Bishop and Lone Pine area. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else that comes to mind before we wrap up here?
No, I mean, keep an eye out for us on the league and our world tour travels. If you haven't heard, I'm on OnlyFans. We're bringing up the OnlyFans athlete program, so I've been super excited to be a part of that and just show like the other side of my life and traveling. Anything from you, Cowboy?
Not much.
EP
That's about
drops
it.
when?
Oh man, I got the struggle with playing guitar and traveling so much is I feel like every time I spend like 2 weeks practicing all the time, and then I leave for 2 weeks and I just lose it all.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any tips on how to more easily learn how to play the guitar, all ears.
Try ukulele. Then
I know. I have been thinking about getting.
Yeah.
I have one.
You have a ukulele?
Oh, there we go.
Just making connections.
There
Yeah.
we go. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. We are
Absolutely.
big fans of the both of you and are rooting you on and can't wait for your journey throughout the rest of this year. It's going to be a good one.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to watch this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. And big shout out to Golden Spoon as they are keeping it gritty on their side. We'll see you next time.
Make that make that make that